HBO produced a documentary titled Mommy Dead and Dearest a year after Gypsy received her prison sentence. The film went into additional detail about Dee Dee's passing and the mistreatment Gypsy suffered at the hands of her mother. Interviews with Dee Dee and Gypsy's relatives, including Gypsy's father and stepmother, were included in the documentary. In the documentary, Gypsy made an appearance and shared facts regarding the evening of her mother's death. November 2018, during Nicholas Gojohn's trial, Gypsy provides testimony. The trial for Gojohn took place in November 2018. According to Gypsy's testimony, the sole reason she came up with the plot to kill her mother was to get away from the abusive life she had been living, as reported by the Springfield News Leader. Although there was no doubt as to whether Gojohn killed Dee Dee, his lawyers contended that Gypsy had used her influence over him to kill her mother and that his charges ought to be dropped to second-degree murder, according to the Springfield News Leader. Gojohn was convicted of first-degree murder a few days later in relation to Gypsy's mother's death in June 2015. He was also determined to have committed an armed crime. According to the Springfield News Leader, Gojohn is presently incarcerated in Missouri's Potosi Correctional Center for a life sentence. March 20, 2019. The Act is available on Hulu. The Act, a limited series on Hulu that starred Patricia Arquette as Dee Dee and Joey King as Gypsy, debuted in March 2019. The complicated connection between Gypsy and Dee Dee, as well as the mistreatment Gypsy Rose experienced and her mother's final death, were depicted in the series. Gypsy and her family weren't big fans of the program, even though it won multiple prizes and was praised by critics, including Arquette's Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a Limited Series. I feel it is very unfair and unprofessional that producers and co-producer Michelle Dean has used my actual name and story without my consent, and the life rights to do so, Gypsy stated in an email to Bustle. Her family friend Fancy Marcelli later refuted her claims, saying that Gypsy's declaration came from her own place of anger, disappointment, and frustration, and that nobody is taking legal action. Gypsy had also said that she would be suing the show's creators. April 2019, Gypsy announces her engagement. Gypsy's engagement was disclosed to POPLE by Marcelli in April 2019. Although her fiance's identity was kept secret at the time, Marcelli disclosed that the pair had been pen pals before starting a relationship that lasted a year and a half. At the moment, Marcelli stated, "They are very happy." Her voice has excitement in it. After a brief breakup, Gypsy and her fiancé get back together in August 2019. Gypsy's fiancé ended their engagement for a short time before they reconciled in August 2019. Gypsy's stepmother Christy Blanchard told In Touch they are back together, naming Gypsy's fiancé as Ken. They are taking things slow and want to keep their relationship as private as possible. But the engagement is on. June 2022. Ryan Scott Anderson and Gypsy get married. Gypsy and Ken's reconciliation ended abruptly in August 2022. That June, Gypsy got married to Ryan Scott Anderson of St. Charles, Louisiana, according to the Springfield News Leader. December 27, 2023. Gypsy expresses to POPL her sorrow about her mother's death. In an open interview with POPLE in December 2023, Gypsy discussed her impending release from prison. She expressed her profound guilt for her mother's murder throughout the conversation, noting how she was desperate to get out of that situation. Gypsy stated, "If I had a second chance to do everything over, I don't know if I would go back to my childhood and tell my aunts and uncles that I'm not sick and that my mommy makes me sick, or if I would travel back to just that moment in time and tell Nick, you know what, I'm going to go tell the police everything. I have some difficulty with that. Nobody will ever hear me say I'm proud of what I did or that I'm glad she's dead," she continued. "Every day I regret doing that." Gypsy is freed from prison early on December 28, 2023. Gypsy was released from prison early on December 28, 2023, having completed 85% of her 10-year term. Gypsy was incarcerated at the Greene County Jail before being sentenced to prison. Her time there was deducted from her total time served. In September 2023, Ozarks First and the Springfield News Leader had previously reported that Gypsy had been granted parole by the Missouri Department of Corrections. Gypsy said to People exclusively, "I'm ready for freedom," upon her release. "I'm ready to expand, and I think that goes for every facet of my life." December 29, 2023. After being released from prison, Gypsy posts a selfie of freedom.